So I want to give a caveat to these remarks within this particular video to the effect that I am not knowledgeable really in any kind of depth to the so-called Tian Chai or Tendai philosophy that emerged from the study of the Lotus Sutra and the proposition within China first and then within Japan that the Lotus Sutra was the supreme sutra of all the Buddhist scriptures. But there is this book called Foundations of Tenchi Philosophy by Paul L. Swanson, which focuses on the so-called flowering of the two truths theory in Chinese Buddhism. And it's a very deep book in terms of its analysis of one of the main proponents, or perhaps the originator of the Tenchi philosophy, which was chih-i. Now, I think just as a sidebar that Tian Chai may have been a mountain in China, and that's why it was called that. And of course, later Tendai, I guess, is the Japanese term for Tian Chai, although in Japan, the focus for the sect was on Mount Hai. And it was from the Tendai sect in Japan that was spawned all the great Kamakura era Buddhist developments such as Zen and Nichirenism and, of course, Pure Land Buddhism. But anyhow, this little section within this tremendously scholarly book is talking about Chih-i's interpretation of the word subtle within the title of the Lotus Sutra. And he says, Chih-i begins his discussion of the title of the Lotus Sutra by pointing out features which are shared with other sutras and which are unique to the Lotus Sutra in terms of teaching, practice, and reality. He says, as for teaching, the sutras contain various teachings because people have varying capacities to understand and they live in differing conditions. However, the basic intent of the Buddha's teaching is one. According to the Lotus Sutra, the ultimate intent and purpose of the Buddha's teaching is the attainment of Buddhahood by all sentient beings. The teachings also have in common the fact that they were all taught by the same Buddha. As for practice, there is a great variety of practices taught in the sutras, since there are many types of people who have different needs with regard to the method of practice. However, as it says in the Lotus Sutra, the goal of practice is ultimately one, namely Buddhahood. As for reality, there are many ways to describe reality, and Chih-i illustrates this with quotes from the Tachi-Tulan and the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. However, the reality which is described in various inadequate verbal terms is one and non-dual. As Chih-i says, quote, various terms name one ultimate reality. Only one ultimate reality is given many names, close quote. What does Chih-i mean by saying that reality is one? He does not mean that reality is nondescript, monochromatic entity with indistinguishable features, but that its underlying essence of nature is that of lacking an internal, unchanging, substantial being. Here is where the threefold truth can be applied to illustrate the spontaneous unity and diversity of reality, that it is one yet many, many yet one. Reality is one in that all is lacking in substantial being. Its nature is that of emptiness. However, this emptiness is not a complete nothingness, but consists of the conventional existence of things which arise and perish interdependently according to causes and conditions. These aspects of emptiness and conventional existence are not contradictory opposites, but are synonymous and integrated. In Tianjia terminology, this is called the middle path. Thus, all of reality is empty. It is one. All of reality has conventional existence. It is many. Reality is simultaneously empty and conventionally existent. Thus, this is the middle path. This threefold truth is implicit in the unity and diversity of the Buddha's teaching, Buddha's practice, and reality itself.